Kia ora and welcome. My name's Sonia Barrett. Thank you for being here. I am a New Zealand Clairvoyant and my reading name is Sonia.B Clairvoyant. So welcome to this video series on weaponization of spirituality and the occult. This content has come into being from my own experiences, research and leaning into all of this content and asking for confirmation and clarity on what it is that I've been receiving through downloads and information and what I've been witnessing in the spiritual community at large. So the information is based on the patterns and synergy of the patterns that I've seen. And really, I've done this 8-part series, video series, in order to enlighten people, to spark thought on some of the things that you might be partaking in or even running in the spiritual community, and the importance of some of the patterns that I've seen in the spiritual community, online, in person. It's a billion-dollar industry. Now, of course, this is only my opinion, so take from it what resonates for you and with you, and that's what spiritual discernment is after all, isn't it? Some of the information may seem a little random. However, as we progress, you will see where the dots join. That's my intention, so hopefully it will be. There might be moments when you go, what does this have to do with blah, 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 but hang in there because it will all make sense. So we'll be looking at some of the following subjects, which are all rabbit holes in their own right. And the history of weaponization of spirituality. We're going to go into global awakening, spiritual discernment, vampirism and harnessing of energy is a big one. And actually, this is the subject in itself that really prompted me to do this video series. The digital domain. From witch hunts to the digital domain we're going to go to, and we're going to look at some modern day research as well. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy it. I have another course on my website, soniabarrettnz.com, and it's called the Third Eye Tips for Readers and Receivers of the Oracle, and it's based on 6 guiding principles for reading etiquette, but it's transferable into many other modalities. And it's based off my experience from having received readings for over 30 years and also as a professional reader myself. So go check that out if you're interested on my website, and we'll get started here. And I shall see you in part 1, history. Thank you. Peace be with you. Kia ora, hello and welcome to part 1 of my series on weaponization of spirituality and the occult. I'm Sonia Barrett, Sonia.B Clairvoyant. So in this short video we're going to be looking at the early suppression of spiritual practitioners in this particular series. As you're probably aware, for centuries, societies across Europe and beyond have been persecuting people like us, people with spiritual abilities, gifted with intuition, healing, different abilities and gifts. And during the European witch hunts from the 1400s to the 1700s, I believe, tens of thousands of people were tortured, murdered, burned to a stake. That's a part of history that we all are quite familiar with, I would say. And of course, mainly women were accused of being witches, when in fact they were actually midwives, herbalists, folk healers, astrologers. So for people like this with abilities, they've always been feared for their independence and spiritual influence, their ability to alchemize and change or be able to see past the veil. And it's the same with indigenous cultures, shamans, oracles, medicine people, you know, were also targeted through colonization or religious authorities taking their sacred practices and rebranding it as superstition, heresy, or just rewritten it, like the Bible, just rewrote it in some parts, I believe. So in today's world, these gifts are so mainstream to the point of saturation that they're considered almost flippant compared to the early witch hunts that I've just spoken about. But let's not forget what happened to all of those that came before us, you know, the cruelty and just how feared they were, and the lengths that authority went to suppress this knowledge and these people, or extract it even. But at the end of the day, control. So I know I've had some past lives where I've been persecuted, so it's a big deal for me to be sitting here and, you know, talking about my thoughts on this, but it's okay. I've got my big girl pants on, and a lot of the subject that I'll be going into, these subjects for this series, they're all rabbit holes in their own right, and many people are speaking about it on different levels and in different ways. And so I'm really just touching the surface. I'm not an expert in any of these areas. I just know what I know. And that's what I'm wanting to share with everybody throughout this series on the weaponization of spirituality and the occult, because I think it's important. So, carrying on from here, I think that these gifts have also always, psychic gifts, clairvoyant, intuition, whatever you want to call it, the history of it has always, there's always been a little bit of a stigma attached to it, and that's by, well, since the beginning really, hasn't it, you know, except for the indigenous people, where in Māori culture a tohunga was held in high respect and regard actually. And I'm assuming it's the same for a lot of other indigenous groups, where they had the shaman or the medicine doctor or the person who had these particular powers were actually held in high regard. So if we look at the dichotomy and power of persecution around this, you know, despite all of the condemnation and the duality is that the rulers, emperors, kings and queens, you know, their religious elites, they all also secretly relied on people like this, the seers, the clairvoyants, the astrologers. You know, the very people that they denounced were the ones that they had held up in a tower or held prisoner or were paying to get the information that they were looking for. Alchemists, prophets, King Henry VIII, James I, Catherine de' Medici, they all consulted magicians and seers for counsel in war, health and politics. These are major things. This is how powerful that these gifts are. I can't emphasize that enough, really. So, as I said, the duality of persecution of the gifted while exploiting them for their insights and their information, this is actually a defining pattern in history. It's still a pattern. The power of spirituality was, and I believe, I'll get to that part. I'll say, because this is about history, I'm going to say the power of spirituality was dangerous, considered dangerous when uncontrolled, whatever that means, but invaluable when serving authority. So used in the right context according to authority. And if we look in a modern day context of even the movie The Matrix, you know, there was a key character there called the Oracle, and she was a seer. And she was also in the movie on the run from the technocratic authorities because of her abilities. And I've always found that quite interesting. So if we look at this picture here on the screen, the picture of the Oracle of Delphi, it was a name given actually to many persons of power, of gifted seers, not just one person. They had many of them. However, all manner of persons of authority throughout history would travel quite a distance to speak to an oracle. And again, it would be war, health, major issues, and people of authority would come and get their input. So what am I saying here? History has told us and shown us that these gifts are so powerful. I can't underestimate that enough. Never underestimate the gift that you have, and also never underestimate your ability. History tells us that there's always been psychics and seers and magicians and healers and medicine doctors throughout time. And there's also been mystery schools or masters in their field, or offering rites of passage for particular students. Not the whole of society. Many methods even today have been kept secret for a reason. So people were selected because it's so powerful that power in the wrong hands, well, we all know what that can do. So, and where it leads. So mystery schools and information has been kept secret for a long time, and there's still a lot that we don't know, and there's still a lot that's been researched and studied and harnessed. Okay, so I'm going to leave this part here, and we will continue moving through the ages to the pre-war theosophical secret societies. So I shall see you in the next video. Peace be with you.